Right, so we're reading Kant and Why the Flash Might Still Travel by Plane by Michael LaBossiere. And they are a runner, alright. As a runner, I have often imagined what it would be like to have super speed like the Flash or Quicksilver. I remember from one of those X-Men movies where Quicksilver just runs into a building and just gets everyone out, like stopping for a snack, and that like just moving so much faster than everyone else, so you can just do whatever while they're it's like stopping time for everyone else. That would be kind of cool, I guess. Unfortunately for my super speed dreams, Kyle Hill has presented the fatal flaw of super speed. Alright, that's... Alright. But while Hill did consider the problem of perception, he seemed to have missed one practical problem with being a super speedster, and that is how mentally exhausting and boring running super speed could be. Naturally, Kant will be involved in this. Naturally. Yeah. Our good dead friend Kant argued that time is not a thing that exists in the world. Rather, it is a form in which objects appear to us. Yeah, we experience time. It is for him the form of inner sense, because our mental events must occur in a temporal sequence, or rather, must occur to us in this way. He does bring up a very interesting point, namely that other beings could experience reality rather differently than the way we experience it temporarily. Alright, that's kind of a thing with that movie, right? What's that movie called? Contact? No, it's not Contact. It's an alien movie. Sorry, I'm terrible with names. I shouldn't bring up movies if I don't remember the name for them, so just forget I said anything. Right. For example, God might experience all time simultaneously, which is a way to account for both omniscience and free will. God knows what you will do because from his perspective, you done did it, are doing it and will do it. Other beings might have similar inner sense, but with a different perceived speed. This takes us to speedsters. Why not just octopuses? From what I understand, octopi perceive time differently than us. I've heard something about that, right? Or, well, they perceive it at a different frame rate than we do. Something like that. And I disagree, right? I completely disagree with this statement that this is a way to account for both omniscience and free will. The only way to account for right. I think both of these ideas separately are not in... Well, I suppose, yeah, that omniscience is one argument against free will. But there are so many arguments against free will that free will is a dumb philosophical idea, in my opinion. It is more... the only reason people have the idea of free will, philosophically speaking, I mean, we all have a will. I'm not disputing that. It's just that we did not generate that will. That will comes from DNA and past experiences. Right? In my mind, we live in a deterministic universe. Yeah, I think if I'm one ideologist or one ist, or follow one ism, it's determinism. Yeah. Because without determinism, it's only chaos and there is nothing, right? There is only chaos and randomness. And nothing really matters. Right. And omniscience that's its own kind of worm, right? Right. Omniscience. That's knowing everything, right? Omniscience. That's another way to say that word. Omniscience. Lovely. Having all the knowledge. I don't know. Alright, other being might have... Alright, different speeds. Alright, while humans can successfully operate fast-moving vehicles, a super speedster would also need to perceive the world and make decisions at super speed under most conditions. But I just want to point out right here that we don't experience speed at a constant rate, right? Our clock ticks at what we consider a constant rate, but our experience, our perception of stuff that happens, right? Sometimes we end up in a zone where time just slows down and we're just in the zone and everything is just going great. Other times our experience of time is, right, when we're bored, it slows down. When we have fun, it might speed up, right? Our experience is not a constant thing, right? So we don't have to, and we don't have to even philosophically imagine this, right? We do this, we know this from experience that time can be perceived differently. That's a priori, right? Yeah, we know that a priori. We can just through introspection and just thinking about it, we know this. But it does have a point, right? That's variables, but then we talk about super speed here, right? That maybe my experience of an hour would be an experience for a second for a super speedster. And that would suck, right? If you couldn't control, right? If you didn't have any control, right? Could you imagine just going to a lecture in a boring topic that you're not interested in and just listening for that for an hour, but it feels like 60 hours, right? It feels like sitting there for days. We've all had that feeling. Just take that to an order of magnitude, right? Never ending. Oh, man. And the lecturer would be talking way slower than this. Not at all frustrating, is it? Exactly, just ugh. Right, consider a simple comparison. With some training, I could pilot a jet plane going hundreds of miles per hour safely. Sure, yeah. But imagine that I had the physical ability to run as fast as a jet, about 500 miles per hour, but my brain was unchanged in terms of my speed of perception and decision making. Oh yeah, that... You would not survive that. Running that fast? You would run into a wall. Right? You would have to jump. Well, I suppose... Depending how the super speed works, right? If you can just jump, right? Make a jump so you jump over everything. Right. If I try to run on a winding trail in the woods, for example, it would be I would immediately slam into a tree. No. You would slam into 100 trees immediately. No, I don't know, but a lot of trees, yeah. Because my physical speed would vastly exceed my ability to perceive the trail and make decisions about when to turn, yeah. But if my mental process was also fast, then I would be able to run normally on the trail, from my perspective. Exactly, that would be needed. I would have plenty of time to make my decisions and avoid collisions. Yeah, my form of inner sense would match up with my physical speed, so I would be fine. Mostly. There would be still be a bit of a problem if I wanted to use my speed to save on travel expenses. Would it? I wonder why. This makes sense to me, right? If you run at normal speed. Well, your experience then of, let's say, running from where I am to Stockholm, my experience of running all that way would be the same for, like, me today, right? Running all that way, my experience, I'm guessing that is gonna be the argument, right? If it's not super speed for me, then it is not super speed, it's super slow. Could you imagine running just to the next town over? That takes a long time. What about 20 miles away? Could you imagine that? 50 miles away. Interesting, yeah. Suppose I wanted to visit my family in Maine. Yeah, my father's house is about 1,500 miles from my house in Florida. If I could run 500 miles per hour, I could be there in 3 hours. Being an experienced marathoner, I know that running for 3 hours is no big deal for me. It would be for me, yeah, but we're imagining a speedster here. It would not be a big deal, right? You can run for probably 8 hours, just a few pauses, a full day of work, no problem, yeah. It would be well worth to save the cost of a flight and avoid the airport. But the situation is rather more complicated than just me running for 3 hours. For people watching me, and by my watch, it would be 3 hours of running. But remember, my mind would be significantly sped up to enable to handle my physical speed. Exactly, yeah. To keep the math simple, suppose my normal human running speed is 10 miles per hour, so my super speed would be 50 times that, 500 miles per hour, yeah. Suppose that my perception and decision-making speed was equally increased. While this might seem amazing, it would entail that from my perspective, 3-hour run would take 150 hours, 6.25 days. Right, yeah, you would need to have full control over these things. As the speedster, right? It would be, right? You would have to control it, that you run faster, right? But control your mind and your speed separately, kind of, right? So it's more like you don't go out into a path in the forest and run, right? It would be the equivalence of driving on a motorway. And that is where your mind would be at that speed. Actually, a little bit faster than that. Right, so you make it equivalent to driving a car, because we can drive a car fairly fast. And since you get used to this, and it's easier to run than it is driving a car, right? You have more control and you can dodge and weave other cars way easier. You can even, like, on the side of the highway, right, where there are no cars, you could run among that side, and you can, if you could balance those things out. That would have to be the case, right? Yeah. Right. Even ignoring concerns about sleep and endurance, that would be an extremely unpleasant run. After all, I would experience it as if I was running there at normal human speed. Although other people and things would seem to be moving very slowly. Yeah. For me, it would not be worth to spend 150 hours running, even if it saved me the price of a plane ticket. After all, I could do that now, and I sensibly do not. Exactly. Yeah, you would need to do that. Interesting. One could, of course, tweak the numbers a bit. Perhaps I could safely run at 500 miles per hour while my mind operated at a slower than 50 times normal speed. Yeah. But it would still need to operate much faster than normal, otherwise I would keep running into things and doing a lot of damage. So, super speed would generally be a terrible idea for long distance travel. Yeah, except, right, if super speed... Yeah, just super speed, you would need to have a super mind as well, and you would need to be able to control that variable. Sure. One could, of course, do some comic book stuff and come up with workarounds to avoid the boredom problem. Yep. Perhaps a speedster would have multiple levels of awareness. A fast navigating awareness that guides them safely, and a slower conscious mind to avoid boredom. Oh, that would be another thing, right? The Spider-Man senses, right? Where you're moving this fast and you're weaving and dodging automatically, subconsciously. Just like when I walk today, right? There's a lot of subconscious stuff going on. Or driving a car, for that matter. Going back to Kant, this would involve having two different forms of inner sense operating at the same mind, in the same mind, exactly. Which obviously not even very weird in philosophical terms. In that case, superspeed would be a great way to travel. Alright, we kind of can assume, right, that we would have different speeds depending on what we're doing and practicing, because that is how our mind works already, right? Time moves faster and slower depending on what we're doing. Alright, I mean, that didn't take very long. Fun exercise, I guess.